Hi everybody. Today I'm going to do a quick maintenance that should be done annually. I'm going to flush the hot water heater. So what I have done, I turned the water heater off this morning, and then I went ahead and ran the hot water in the kitchen sink, and it can be done in any sink or the shower. I ran it until the water coming out was no longer hot. The reason I did that is so that when I pull the anode rod out, if there's still a lot of water in the water heater, that way it won't burn me. So don't want to get doused in hot water. I have done that in the past. It's not a fun thing. So hope you'll find this video helpful, and we'll see how everything goes. Sorry my rig is so dirty. We did a trip south and we had some bad weather and haven't had a chance to clean it up yet. So, but you're gonna need a couple of tools, and one of them you're gonna need a ratchet with a socket, and that is a 1 1/16 inch socket. And the other tool that you're gonna need is one of these handy things where you can stick it in and rinse that tank out really well. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to remove the cover. To remove the cover, you pull this off, take this and you turn it so that it's straight. And then if it's all lined up right, it's a little more difficult to do with one hand, then the cover comes off. And there you see my Suburban hot water heater. Put the cover down to the side, and first thing I'm going to do while I've got it turned off inside, I am also going to turn it off out here, and there's a little switch down here, and I'm going to turn that to off as well. So we should be ready to go. I'm going to pull the low point drain on the hot water in just a second, but before I do that, I'm going to put it into water heater bypass mode. The things I really like about our Alpine is that the water, I call it the water compartment, is separate, and that's basically the where the water, all the water control functions are. It is in a totally separate door. You don't have to have any of your cargo doors open in order to access your water compartment. So open my water compartment. It's a little bit of a mess because I'm doing everything else here right now, but I am going to put my water heater bypass in the bypass position. And it is now in the bypass position. So that means that if I wanted to get hot water from inside, I would not get any hot water on the inside. And then my hot low point drain is the red one right here. I'm gonna pull that. So now it's draining my low point drain, and I will open the vent up here as well, and hopefully what it's going to do is it's going to drain all of that. So we'll see. I've got to make sure. I'm going to shut water off to the rig to make absolutely sure that I'm not just putting fresh water out onto the ground as well. But you can see that's the hot water drain coming out now. So with the hot water bypass in the bypass position, I was indeed, and with water still coming into the rig, it was indeed still getting water coming into that. It was just water, fresh water was coming in through my filter system and then going back out. And I'll do a video of our filter system here shortly as well, so you guys can see how I have all of that set up. Sorry about some of the noise in the background. They're using leaf blowers to blow off some of the sites. We've got more people coming into the campground here shortly. So they like to try to keep all of the campsites nice and neat here. But now that the water is almost drained out, I am going to go ahead and pull the anode rod out of the tank. You'll notice the anode rod down here has got plumber's tape around it, and I put that plumber's tape on it so that it will seal properly when it's reinserted. So I have loosened it, and I'm getting ready to, and the best way that I found to do this is with my ratchet. I have it on an extension so that it sits out nice and far from it. And I've got it loose now, so I can just turn it, and we'll see how much water comes out of it this way. Hopefully I am not, oops, sorry about my finger there. So hopefully I will not get inundated with water. I'm going to pull the wrench off and just do it by hand the rest of the way. We'll see how much water comes out. Oh, there we go. You can see there's still quite a bit of water, even though I had the hot water drain open. Still quite a bit. Maybe it shouldn't have been in bypass mode. So I went back to regular mode to see if that makes a difference. So when you do that, make sure you wear shoes that you don't mind getting wet in the event that you're going to get splashed. Now here's my anode rod. You can see it's been doing its job. It does not need to be replaced yet, but it is doing its job. So that's what we want. And once this is fully drained, then I'll take my little flush tool and we'll flush this baby out. All right, you can see the water is no longer draining out. I always clean the old plumber's tape off, and I'll put new plumber's tape on it before I put this back in. But I also need to clean up that little bit of plumber's tape residue that's here as well. I'll pull that off, and then I will start flushing this. Okay, you can see inside there's a little bit of buildup in there. I'm gonna take a screwdriver and clean some of that buildup out of there as well. And then I'm gonna flush everything as well. I have successfully cleaned up most of those threads anyway. It doesn't have to be perfect in there. The idea is just to get as much of that buildup out as you can. You can see right here some of the stuff that has the buildup inside that tank. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to flush this. I was very fortunate to pick this flush tool up here a year ago for like a quarter at a yard sale. It had never been used, still sealed in its package. And you can see it has a valve on it right here where my thumb is. So I've got it hooked up to my freshwater hose, and now I am starting the flush process to flush out the tank. You can see the crud, some of the additional crud that's coming out there. So, oh, there's even, look, there's actually some dark. You can see some dark in the water there as well. Just all the crud. So, and even with the filters, things still manage to get through. So it's always a good idea to do this at least annually. So now if you have an Atwood tank that has a rubber or a not rubber, but a nylon stopper instead of an anode rod, then you never have to worry about changing your anode rod. But if you have one that has an anode rod, you need to check that anode rod at least yearly. So I will do this for a few minutes until I get nice clean water coming out, and we'll be ready to put everything back together. Understanding with plumber's tape, that is, you always want to put the plumber's tape on so that as you as you tighten it, it has a tendency to tighten the plumber's tape rather than a tendency to pull it off. So you can see I've started putting the new plumber's tape on. In just a second, I'll be putting the anode rod back in. When you're putting the anode rod back in, always make sure that you put it in with your finger tight first. That way you know for sure that you have not cross-threaded it. So make sure that it'll turn in quite a bit. You can see I probably have about 4 threads left. So I will now take the wrench and tighten that down, and I'll turn the water back on, and it should start filling that hot water tank up. One of the other things to check when you're doing this, when you do this annual maintenance, is to make sure that your seal along here is good as well. We had a problem once where ours had cracked or was starting to peel back here, and so anytime there was a drip or it would rain, water would come in here and it would get in behind the water heater, and it would get in behind the water heater, and it was actually coming out under the water heater here. So fortunately it wasn't getting in the wall, but it was coming out the end. So I cleaned all the old sealant up and got some black automotive RTV and sealed that baby up real good again. So you can see I've got the anode rod back in there now, and I'm gonna turn the water back on, and hopefully it'll start filling that tank up. I'm using my outside hose, and what I'm doing now is I'm getting all of the air out of that hot water tank, out of the water tank lines. So, and I'll have to go inside to the faucets inside as well to get the air out of those lines before I turn the water heater back on. I'll have water coming out of the hot water side. And what I did was I would turn the faucet on and off temporarily to let it build pressure up. Now I'm going to go inside and do the same for all the faucets inside. Okay, turned on the hot in the kitchen and immediately started getting water out with no bubbles. Switch it over to cold, make sure I don't get any bubbles that way, and that's still good. So it looks like I'm doing it at the outside faucet, which is the lowest point in the whole hot water system. Seems like it worked. Bathroom sink is good too. I think we're good to turn everything back on now. Right, so there's my in-command system, and go to water heater, go to electric, and there was a very distinct click. And if you notice my little tag here, that reminds me to turn the fan off before I bring in the slides. Because if I don't do that, the fan hits the slides. So at least until we upgrade the fan, we've been looking at different upgrades so that we don't have to worry about that so much. As part of the annual maintenance, I also make sure that the gas works well. You can see in there, I'm getting a pretty good burn out of there. So I'm using both the electric and the gas to get the water back up to temp real quick. All I've got to do is put the cover back on, and we will be all done with my annual hot water heater maintenance. Well, I hope this video helps somebody. I know that people are always worried when they're doing little maintenance items, but this is a simple maintenance item that anybody can do. No sense in paying somebody to do this for you. So make sure you rinse that tank out and check your anode rod annually. And hope you enjoy the video, and we'll see you around a campfire. Bye.